I'm Max Sterling. Welcome to LarpGasm. Today I'm going to show you how to make antiqued paper or old paper or genre paper or spellbook paper or map paper, whatever you want to call it. And I'm going to use two different types. This is a 100% cotton fiber resume style paper that's already a little bit off-white. It's like an ivory. And then we're going to go ahead and use just some regular white copier paper. And of course, paper comes in a variety of shades and weights, so if it's something that's going to be just a one-time throwaway thing like a map or a cipher or something, regular white copier paper is probably going to be your cheapest and best option. If you want something that's going to last longer, it's something that's going to get passed around, I would choose a heavier grade paper, maybe something like this resume paper. Just be mindful, some of this paper has watermarks on it, and you can see on this one. Oh, I lit the black flame candle, but nothing happened. What's that mean? Anyways, I don't know if you can see this or not, but there is a watermark behind here. And if you can't see it, jack it up to 1080p and I bet you can. But anyways, try to avoid those watermarks, because if you're really trying to get that heavy immersion, if someone holds this up to a light to read it or something, they're going to see these watermarks, and it's going to ruin that immersion. So just keep that in mind if you're using the resume style paper. A lot of them have that watermark symbol in there, and depending on how you dye it, that may bleed through also. So you want to try to avoid that if possible. But this is what I have on hand, so this is what I'm going to use anyways. But we'll go ahead and get started here, and I think you'll be happy with the results. If you've seen my how to make a journal or a spellbook video, then you already sort of saw how I aged these papers. But basically, get yourself some paper, get yourself some tea or some coffee, and for the most part, that's all you need. And let's get started. So it's a fairly nice day where I'm at, so I'm going to go ahead and just do this outside. Now, there's a lot of different ways you can do this. You can dry this in your stove, you can dry it in front of a dehumidifier, you can put it in your oven. However you want to do it, it'll all give you different results. So you can play around with it a little bit. I actually prefer to just let the sunlight do its thing, because I don't want to put it in my oven. So if you have a nice sunny day, just put these outside. Make sure you put something on them so they don't blow away. But you can do whatever you want to. If you put them in your oven, just make sure it's a very low temperature, maybe like 100, 200 degrees. I'm not sure what setting that is on the hob, but you can figure it out. And when I'm talking degrees, I of course mean Fahrenheit. I'm in the US, so just a very low temperature. You don't want anything to catch on fire. But that's also why I prefer to do this outside. Now, I got these instant tea bags because I don't care when I'm doing this. I'm not going to use really good stuff when I'm making this paper. However, these are actually organic, but I'm not going to use the really good stuff. So basically, all you want to do here is just take this paper, and I much prefer just a random effect, so I like to just pour it on here. So it might seem kind of wasteful to do it this way, but it'll leave some grooves and some marks in it. And when you let it dry, it'll just, in my opinion, looks more natural. If you want to, you can take these tea bags and you could just set them on there and let them leave a weird mark. Entirely up to you. So what I'm going to do is just go ahead and let this dry for a while. And if you decided to do coffee, you would do coffee the exact same way. Now you could also get a little tray or like a casserole dish, and you could fill it up and you could submerge them in there. But I don't like to do that because it makes too much of a uniform effect. If you do it this way, it creates a lot more random patterns. So I'm actually going to pick these up and then move them down this table a little bit so they're not just sitting in this. And we'll come back and check on them in a little while. And the good thing about coffee is you can brew it as black as you want to make this as dark as you want. And for a little bit of a pro tip, if you save some of the grinds, If you really want this paper to look grimy, you can put some of that on there too, and sort of just leave it sit, and it'll give it a really sort of grimy look and feel. So let's go ahead and we're just going to do this one corner down here like that, so you can see how that comes out. Just like leaving the tea bags actually set on the paper, you can leave this set on the paper and it'll give it, like I said, this really sort of dark and grimy look. So let's go ahead and do that with this particular sheet. So now that everything's stained, I want to do a side-by-side comparison for you. So you can see here, the one on the left is the coffee stain, the one on the right is the tea stained. And you can see that for the most part, they come out looking pretty much the same. Now you can see where I left those big coffee marks on there on this one. And there's a little bit darker where I left those tea bags on this one. But basically, as a general rule of thumb, coffee will come out darker than tea. But if you're using a dark paper to begin with, they come out approximately the same. So this is what we ended up with. And on the white paper, same thing. The one on the left is the coffee, the one on the right is the tea. And if it doesn't come out dark enough for you, you can always brew that coffee darker, make it stronger, or you can always pour it on it again. Also, if you submerge it, like I said, in a casserole dish or something and let it really penetrate, then it may get darker as well. But that's pretty much comparison for you. So from here, the next step is I'm going to go ahead and roll this up. Now, once it's rolled up, as a scroll would be, we suppose, then you can be done. You could tie a little piece of twine or suede around there. You could seal it with a wax seal, or we can distress it further. Something that I like to do, and normally I do this before I actually pour the tea or coffee on it, because that way it doesn't smell like burning, is actually to just sort of burn the edges. And all I'm doing here is just sort of lighting the end of this on fire and then blowing it out. And it really is that easy. And then you decide how much or little that you want to do with it. So that's sort of the look we get. And if you want to do the long edges, just roll it the other way. Now, if you want to make it look interesting in the middle somewhere, you can also always do a little bit of fire in the middle of the paper. You gotta be real careful though, just give it a little bit of a flame touch there. But you gotta have a steady hand, some patience, and be prepared for error, because you're just wanting to mark it up a little bit when you do that. So just a few notes in closing. If you don't like the smell, or you're afraid that it might attract insects or something, don't use the coffee, use the tea instead, because it doesn't have quite a strong odor. I would suggest burning before you do the staining, so that you can take care of a lot of the ashes and stuff, and then also it won't smell so much as burning. I would, like I said, suggest printing stuff out using your printer, unless you really want to do it handwritten, which of course adds authenticity, but a lot of times if you do the printer, it looks better, and the ink will hold up better under the water. As far as the actual process of making it look more genre, you can add blood splatters by flicking a brush with red paint onto it. Adventure on.